This is going to be the 4th episode in our series covering all the different splinters and their unique strategies and combos, and in today's episode we'll be covering Life, which I will nickname the Buff Splinter. So to begin with, we're going to speak about the different summoners, because the summoners help reveal what the developers intended the strategy to be and how the splinter was meant to be played. So if we look at fire, you can quickly see that it's aggressive, melee, and speedy. If you look at water, it's more slow, but it's more magic focused. If you look at nature, it's very health focused, as well as just generally being healing focused as well. And then you hit life. And with life, you look at these summoners and you see that if you look at the beta, it's +1 armor, and then it's +3 armor, -1 archer. And you basically just already see this tank, this slow, methodical, almost like a turtle tank form. When they made Life, they basically like, this is a slow tank, we're just going to keep that going. And that's exactly what they did. So they included a +1 HP as the Untamed Summoner, and then they gave Chances the Great, the power of Resurrect, Repair, and then a backline heal. And then DICE came around and they said, you know what Life needs? More shields. And they basically gave Life Divine Shield. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, or in Chaos Legion, they gave a card that gives the 2 minions next to it Divine Shield. I would not be surprised, because I think that's just where the game's heading. So when you look at these summoners, you basically just see this thick tank being formed, and that's okay. So in terms of order of my favorite, I would definitely put Peak Rider as number 1. He is basically, if you were to do the math, he is 3 times a Thyrus, and then he's also a Contessa, which is the Death Summoner, giving that -1. So he's basically what I would consider 4 level 3 summoners. Obviously armor's a little bit different, so I still think all the level 5 summoners are super strong. But yeah, Peak Rider is an exception and a different one, and he's really great. So I definitely think he's underrated. So if you have the money, how much are Peak Riders selling for at the moment? Way too much. But yeah, he's definitely underrated. So I would not I would suggest buying him, but I don't own him personally. But hopefully in the future I will one day. So if anyone if anyone wants to sponsor me, I'm here. So number 1 is Peak Rider, because super underrated. 5 mana, you can play most of the time. If it's a high level mana game, our number 2 comes in, which is Chances. He gives Resurrect, he gives backline heal, and he has Repair. Super unique, but also just helps with forming this tank, because it keeps the minion alive. So let's say if you put a Taunt in the front, he keeps that alive. Your backline, for example, if you have a big arch in the back, and they've got stealth minions that attack it, he keeps them extra healthy, and then as well as just in general, he repairs any armor, which would probably your position 1 as well, but he repairs that each round. So just a fantastic all-round legendary summoner. So you go 1, then you go 2. For number 3, it's a competition between these two, but I honestly feel that I use a Thyrus more. So just giving those minions that don't have armor a little bit of armor, I feel like it helps. And then coming in at number 4 is Lorna Shine. And then coming in at number 5 is your Mother Kala. Super good, but just in general, I feel like a shield or a health, armor or a divine shield is better than the health. Obviously in unprotected, that's my argument. In unprotected, I'd rather have a divine shield than the +1 HP, but the +1 HP is still very good. And then coming in last is your Kiera, the little Lightbringer. Okay, for POS 1, which is your tank, obviously you can use neutral tanks, but I'm not going to include too many of those. So my first one is a Krallis. Krallis is just a great overall tank. This is a level 2, so take that with a grain of salt. But in general, high armor, high HP, dual attack, so if you have opportunity or sneak, you can always play one, especially if it's at 99 mana. Has immunity, so good for earthquakes, good for poison. And then once you get him to level 2, he does get heal, which just helps with that tankiness in general. The other option, which is not overrated at all, is a shield bearer. Once you in Gold League, I believe, yeah, once you get it above level 5, which is Gold League, it gets shield, which is one of the best tanking abilities in the game. but he doesn't just rely on his shield, he also has lots of HP, so if they do decide to go magic, you are covered for that. And the most important thing is he has taunt, so that taunt basically works really well with cards like Chances that has Resurrect, and cards like your High Priest Darius. So you play the taunt, they have to kill the taunt. Once they kill the taunt, you get a Resurrect or a guaranteed Resurrect on a monster that has a high amount of armor. So hopefully he doesn't die, and then your team healers can then buff him back up and keep him alive extra long. So basically just this taunt plus Resurrect combo guarantees that you get a really good Resurrect instead of, for example, a chicken. Like if they snipe your chicken and then your chicken comes back, that feels a lot worse than if they kill a shield bearer and the shield bearer comes back with 6 armor at least. So the next thing after your position 1s, which are your protectors and your maintainers. So your protectors are basically my favorite one of all time. If you can get one, they're very expensive, but in this deck it has one, which is fantastic. But my favorite protector is a Defender of Truth, purely because I think she's a fantastic card to have in general, but she's really, really strong in little minions, in Equalizer. She's just a super undervalued card that just is so good, because she gives you Protect, she's got high amount of magic damage, small amounts of HP, and even an armor. But basically for 4 mana, she gives you 3 magic damage, which ignores armor. She gets 2 extra armor herself, so she'll be 3/4, and then she gives all friendly monsters 2 armor in general, which is fantastic. But you only need a level 3, so if you can get a level 3 one, which is Silver League and above, you're golden. Like this, even though she'll have 2 damage and not the 3, it's such a strong card, and it's probably my #1 card for life. I think she absolutely makes life for me. But if you can't get her, don't worry, there are other options, and the next option is a reward card, so it should be quite cheap. A Silver Shield Sheriff, and he gives you Protect, but only at, once again, Gold League and above. You need a level 6 one, so it's a bit expensive, and it only comes in later. But he's got, like, he fits into life so well, because he's big, he's this big archer, lots of damage, lots of HP, and then he gives everyone a whole bunch of Protect. But if not, you can always go to the most well-known one, but I actually use it the least. I don't like it. I much rather prefer the Defender of Truth, because for 1 extra mana she gives you a little bit more armor and way more damage, but she doesn't have cleanse. And the next option is a Truth Speaker. So Truth Speaker does the exact same job, but just a little bit worse than a Defender of Truth. She gives you the Protect, and then she has Cleanse for your, like, pos 1. And now we're going to go move on to Maintainers. So for Maintainers, I'm going to just speak about the classic and most, like, noticeable one, and that's an Armorsmith. He gives you the Repair, he's 2 mana, doesn't have any damage, but once you level him up, he will have the damage. But you don't need it, honestly. Like, you can just get a level 3 if you want, or you can keep a level 1 and just keep that Repair handy, and just put him in literally pos 2, pos 3, and he pays for himself. He just basically will constantly repair your pos 1 or pos 2. I recommended it in my newbie guide, and I still recommend it to this day. I own multiple of these, and I rent them or delegate them out to whoever needs. However, there is another one, but this does come late in the game, and that's a Lone Boatman. And you need to be silver for it, because it's a level 5 common. He's got good damage, bad HP, good armor, and then in general he just repairs. Those are the 2 repairers that I recommend, and those are the ones that I use the most. In terms of tank healers, which are also maintainers, you've got the budget one, which would be your Divine Healer. She's very classic, so you can use her anytime you want, and she will just generally heal your frontline tank. So that's great. Try and get a level 3 common, because then at least she has some magic damage to add to, like, extra damage. However, if you do want what I don't use the Divine Healer. I typically pay 2 mana more, and I use a Tortoise Chief. And yeah, but this is only, I think, yeah, you need to be in gold and above. So once you get into Gold League and you get a level 4 Tortoise Chief, you can then start using Tank Heal. Until then, you might as well just stick with a level 2 and just have this 2 magic damage tank. But if you're in Gold League and below, definitely use a Divine Healer. Like, nothing wrong with her at all. I just, for this deck that's in gold and above, I use the Tortoise Chief because he's got extra magic damage and more HP. So he works for me. Actually, he doesn't have more. No, he does have more HP. So he does work for me. Okay, so after the maintainers, the next thing is that life has a ridiculously good amount of like high damage archers. Like it's a little bit surprising, but if you look at things like the Lone Boatman, a 5 cost 3 mana, that's okay. But then you get things like a Peacebringer, which is 4 mana, 4 damage, 6 HP. Great card. Like, literally put it in position 5, position 6, and he just does his job for you. Plus, if you can give him armor or Divine Shield, he'll stick around extra long against those annoying stealth boys. Other cards that are great, obviously we mentioned the SF Sheriff, Evangelist, probably butchered that fucking name, but same thing, 6 mana, 4 damage, 7 HP. So this is a way more expensive version than the Peacebringer, but it's more recent, updated. It gives Inspire plus Snare, so not bad. But like Air Elemental, same thing. So, but I would definitely recommend Peacebringer. So Peacebringer is your #1 choice, purely because you can use him in little minions. He's also the lowest HP. Then you'd want to look at things like your Air Elemental and your SF Sheriff, especially if you're in Gold League and above, so you can get that Protect. And then your last option would be something like this. It's a lot more expensive than the other ones, and what it gives you is like lackluster. Life has some great assassins. So the first one that comes to mind is the Silver Shield Assassin. This card is fantastic. If you play this with like explosions, you always win. Like, it's pretty nutty. You want, like, if you're playing Silver League and below, you want to get it to level 3 just so they can get that 1 extra HP. The double strike makes it good at 4 damage, obviously. And then once you're in Gold League and above, you really want to get that poison on it, because then it's just extra fun. It breaks through Divine Shields, it breaks through armor, because it's not 1 big hit, it's 2 little hits, and then if you get blasted as well, it's double the blast. So just a great assassin. The other good one's the Feral Spirit. So we spoke about the different stealth or the different beta sneak minions. I still believe that the Cobalt Mine is the best because it's 2 mana and it gives you very similar stats. However, this one has the highest speed out of the collection. So if you want a quick cat, you can get the Feral Spirit. And then another great option is the Cave Slug, which is better in reverse speed because it's got very slow attack, but it's super tanky, and then it's got very good damage. But it's also the most expensive opportunity card when compared to something like Feasting Seaweed or the Serpian Spy. Okay, so there's 2 ways to play life. The first one is fucking little minions. Like, whenever I see little minions in Gold League, I smash the life button. Like, there's nothing better. Like, I said fire is strong with cards like your Cerberus with heal, retaliate, 8 HP, 4 damage, plus the 1 extra melee damage. Like, that's a really strong, that card and a fire demon with blast. I still play life above those 2 cards. Because you've got things like Peacebringer, you've got things like Defender of Truth, you've got your Crystal Jaguar with Thorns, you've got your Feral Spirit, you've got your Divine Healer, you've got a really strong Warrior that has 3 damage and a shit ton of like stats to be your Pos 2. There's some really strong cards when you play Little Minion Life in Gold League and above. But then the other main way that I play life is basically this weird turtle. And the way I would do it is you put in your tank. So let's say you put in your shield bearer as position 1. So you've got your big tank in the front. In position 2, you could put your, maybe you want to put in a card with like reach. If you've got the mana for it, you could put in something like the warrior, or if you got more mana, you can put in the eagle. Same thing, just the tanky Pos 2 melee minion. Then you can put in a maintainer, so something like your divine healer, or if you got the mana, play the Turtle Chief, which just gives some HP to your position 1. And then for Pos 4 to 6, you want to put in something like an assassin. So if you got the mana, I would always go for the Silver Shield Assassin, super strong. But if you got less mana, maybe a Cave Slug, and if you got very little mana, a Feral Spirit. And then bumping after that Assassin, you've got 2 spots remaining. Typically I would put the Silver Shield Sheriff in pos 6, and then in pos 5 you just put in a high damage archer, so something like a Peacebringer, or it depends. If you got unlimited and it's 99 mana, you might want to put something like a High Priest Darius or something like that. But yeah, that's basically it. And then if it's super high mana, you've got a Chances that's, as we said, able to resurrect your pos 1 with Taunt, is able to repair your pos 1 with Armor, and then gives a heal to your backline that's dealing with the tanks, which typically, if you're lucky, will be your Sheriff, which has 8 HP plus Armor. So every time he takes damage, he can get healed each round, so hopefully he doesn't die within 1 round. And that's it. You just play this like little Fortitude tank. So let me include some videos and let's get that going. Okay. So what you're going to see is what I would call low mana life battle. So this is in Gold League. What we've done is we put in a budget tank. So we put in the beta tank instead of the untamed tank. We put in a budget divine healer instead of the tortoise. We put in the Defender of Truth because she's fantastic. Because it's divine shield, we put in the archers just because she's got double strike, so it should hopefully remove some of those divine shields extra quickly. And then we've got our big Peacebringer in the back because it's got 4 HP and he's 4 mana, so it's very cheap. As you can see, this team has very little mana cost, in terms that the biggest costing mana is our front line with 5 mana. Everything else is really cheap, but each of these things basically will buff one another, and as a unit it's round 3 and we haven't taken any damage except one person's taken some damage to their armor. But you can see how slow this is. It's like it's chipping away, but then just also maintaining its own HP. And now the Divine Healer is going to get to work helping the front line. And it wasn't even like this guy doesn't have cards. Like, he's got some level 6 minions and stuff like that. So even though we do have the minion advantage, it's not like this guy has nothing. So please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments what you want me to do next. And if you're a new player, please use the promo code and I'll happily send you the $0.5 US back to you. It just lets me know that people are watching and using the promo, and I'm helping new players join the community. Also, if you find me on the Discord, just pop me a message. I'll happily delegate any of the new players some power.